Statistical mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Bitcoiners, welcome to another live space with Oliver Velez. Welcome, Bitcoiners, traders. I know I have some traders here, followers, trolls, supporters, haters, Bitcoin negators. Everyone's here, and I actually like that. But welcome to all of you. Let's talk my favorite topic of the day, Bitcoin. I've got some time. I do want to apologize to all of you in advance because I am unable to schedule these things. My life does not lend itself to me being able to, at least at this particular point, schedule these talks. So I have to do them in a very spontaneous manner. And I know that does not promote a large following. So only the individuals who are at the moment, they happen to be online scrolling or what have you and get the notice. Only those individuals can truly know when I'm going live. But I will tell you this, I am not really, first of all, I appreciate all of you who do attend these sessions live, but I am not really in earnest doing them for you or me or anything like that for at this moment. I'm actually trying my best to lay the groundwork for having a body of work that people can refer to back in the past. Maybe that's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe even beyond. And let's assume that anything that I do will be made available. My team does save all of these. So if for one reason or another these sessions were to ever be deleted or removed, they are made available on a variety of different platforms. And we also keep a copy of all these talks as well. But I truly was inspired by just sort of doing my back work regarding Bitcoin. So let me explain this for a bit. And while you come up with any questions you might have during this impromptu Q&A session. When I was initially bitten by the Bitcoin bug, for lack of a better phrase, I began searching for and looking at many of the prior. I'm smoking a cigar here. Give me a second, guys. Any of the prior talks, forums, discussions, what have you. And what I wanted to do was to delve into the mindset that existed at that particular time, whether it was 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. And I wanted to see what people were experiencing. And I could sort of put my finger on the pulse of what the general mindset in the community was by reading many of the posts, many of the comments. And that is largely because from a psychological point of view, most people sort of gravitate to one or two things. And in 2010, 2011, 2012, there was a different narrative. There was a different focus. There was a different mindset that permeated the Bitcoin-oriented space. Again, for lack of a better term, for lack of a better phrase. And that was very fascinating to me. And I'm I'm a student of history. I am a market participant, a financial market participant for 4 decades. I understood very early in my career that understanding what potentially is possible now did stem from what has always been in the past. So I always studied financial markets in all markets throughout the world in the past. In the past, it was always very different, always very important to me. The history of something was always very important to me. And there's a statement that always resonated with me from my grandmother from my early ages in life. She would always say, Oliver, if you want to know where you're going, you have to know where you've come from. You can't know where you're going if you haven't figured out where you've come from. And that statement that she would repeat perpetually did resonate with me. And I took that statement and that truth that resonated with me in almost every single thing that into every single thing that I've ever been interested in. And Bitcoin is no exception. So when the Bitcoin bug, again, for lack of a better phrase, bit me, I began my search into the past of Bitcoin. And fortunately, unlike many other things, the past of Bitcoin is very short term oriented. I did not have to search thousands of years into the past and read annals that were written over decades, if not millennia. I only had to read forum posts that spanned much shorter than some of the forum posts that I have over the last 4 decades uh, connected to my industry. So I have posts online and I have rants online and I have opinions that I've expressed online that are older than Bitcoin itself. And so this was very, what should I say? This was very encouraging to me that the history that I had to delve into regarding Bitcoin was so short. It was shorter than my very own history. And so, um, to make a long story short, you know, I decided that I would come online for a period of time, especially when it as it relates to Bitcoin Twitter or X.com Twitter. You pick the poison of your choice to lay down or establish an electronic library, if you will, of comments, posts, opinions, responses, audio audio sessions like we're doing now, live video sessions, a collection of those things that perhaps maybe 5 to 10 years from now, maybe even 15 years, 20 years from now, that people can refer back to and understand where I personally was coming from. I have very little interest, to be honest with you. I have very little interest in terms of how many people pipe into me at this particular moment, how many people resonate with what I'm saying or don't resonate or anything like that. I'm always living backwards. I'm always living from the year 2033 all the way backwards. And that's the year I choose to live backwards from as it relates to Bitcoin, by the way. I'm always constantly telling the people that, have any interest in listening to what I have to say that I'm trying to come back from the year 2033 and speak to you. And so I live backwards. And it's not important to me at this particular point who listens to me, who agrees with me at this particular time. I actually am interested in how myself how my friends, how my family, how you, how some of my followers, how some of the people who followed me for decades look back on what I'm saying today in 2033. And I'm absolutely certain that some of those things are probably going to sound ridiculous in 2033, the things that I'm saying today. But I wanted to have the opportunity to sort of have us kind of grow together, speak together, have opinions together, and learn in real time together, make mistakes together, be right together. But I will tell you that from my point of view now, I don't think that much of what I speak to you about today is wrong. But, that is somewhat, I guess that is somewhat egotistical at this particular point, in that we will not have a final say on that until many years have passed. But that's what's fun about it. To me, it's fun to put yourself on the line right now and see where that lands 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years from now. It's interesting to me that we have a 15-year history to judge Bitcoin by. And I find that very interesting because, as I've mentioned on a variety of occasions, that in my industry, in the traditional finance space, 10 years is that gold standard. And I guess we ultimately have to stop using the term gold standard and eventually start using the Bitcoin standard. But that gold standard, that Bitcoin standard, the gold standard of the past was 10 years. I was always taught and told, and I understood throughout my entire career in the traditional financial space that 10 years was the gold standard. It was the golden mark. It was what everyone was striving for in my industry. So if you started a money management business, you tried to stay alive until you had a 10-year business. If you started a hedge fund, you tried to stay alive until you had a 10-year business, a 10-year record for people to judge you by. If you were a mutual fund that started up, you tried to last long enough to have a 10-year record, because in my industry, it was commonly known that you can fake or luck into a 2-year, a 3-year, a 5-year record, but you can't luck or finagle your way into a successful 10-year market. So 10 years was considered to be the standard of truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So 10 years was the truth. You can't fake 10 years. 10 years, a decade, is long enough for a number of black swans to hit you, a variety of things that you can't possibly um, in, intercept, interpret in advance, anticipate. And so if you can survive a 10-year period and still be okay, if you can be alive after a 10-year period and still have a solid, consistent record, that there could be zero doubt. Now, Bitcoin has given us 15 years, not 10 years, not 2 years, not 5 years, which you can luck into. But Bitcoin has given us 15 years. And throughout that 15-year period, it has accomplished a variety of things. Number one, it has accomplished being the most, it is, it's, it's the best performing asset the world has ever known over a 15-year period, over a 10-year period, over a 5-year period, over a 3-year period, over a 1-year period. No other asset class. Now, of course, you can pick assets in moments and times that have outperformed that. But over that period of time, that's the specialty. That's the beauty. You can't beat Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not even close It's not even a close number one. It is so far ahead that number two markets itself as being number one because it can't see number one. So no one looks at Bitcoin today in the traditional space as being the number one because it's so far ahead that you can't see it. And so you assume, even if you're number two, you assume you're number one because you can't see number one. And this is one of the things, it's one of many things that compelled me to stop and think like, wait a minute, I've got to really look at this, because how, after so many years, can I ignore this? How can I, and I did ignore it, but how, there was a point where I had to stop and say, oh my God, like, how can I stay ignorant with this? How can I stop? How can I continue to shit on this thing when every metric that I've been taught to judge something by, it trounces that metric? And so I had to stop. And that's not very easy for people in my industry. You know, I've had great success in my industry. I've I I can be considered one of the fortunate ones who have I've beat the system. I've stayed ahead of inflation, money printing, monetary debasement. Um, I've lived a very extraordinarily successful life. And it's very difficult for people to detach themselves from that and to look at something that says that encourages you to look at what has been the basis of your success in a contrarian way. And today we have some very bright people, people that are brighter than you can possibly imagine. People that, I'm sorry guys, puff this cigar before it goes out, but people that are brilliant, that they seemingly can't get this. And it's not that they can't get this because I've been there, but because why? Why do I need to look over here? Because everything that I've done, I've managed all my life to figure out a way to beat this system. Why should I look at another system? Why? I'm winning. I'm winning. But so, as a winner, why should I look at something that says I've been winning wrong? Why should I look at something that says that this is not the way? Because I've dedicated my entire life to winning this way. And that's where a lot of people in my traditional industry is. They're at this place where they would rather parrot third party things that poo poo Bitcoin, because it's like, why? Why should I look at this thing? It's small, it's tiny compared to the things that I trade. I trade the equity markets. It's $120 trillion market. I deal in the real estate market. I'm a real estate mogul. That's a global $350 trillion market. I deal in derivatives. That's over $1 trillion market. I deal in the bond market, and I beat the system. You know, that's a $300 trillion market. Like, why should I deal with this thing that's less than $1 trillion or $1 trillion? Like, why should I look over there? And many of these people that I've had 40 years of experience with, that's their mindset. Their mindset is like, why should I look at this little tiny thing? Like, come on, why are you bothering me with this? I beat the system. Pay attention to me, you know? And I was there. And there are certain things that, guys, I will tell you, there are certain things that I wish I could get back. In 2017 into 2018, into the beginning of 2018, I let traders go. I eliminated some good traders in my organization. I have traders in 95 different countries. And I couldn't understand why there was this growing chorus of traders of mine that I trained and to do well. I capitalized. I gave them the money to do whatever they needed to do, but they couldn't stop talking about Bitcoin. This is 2017 into 2018. And I got to the place where I said, listen, if you keep continuing to talk about this, I'm going to eliminate you. And much to my chagrin today, I did eliminate traders that just couldn't stop talking about Bitcoin. And that is something that I wish I could get back. I wish I could get back letting certain people go that tried to bring my attention to this, that tried to get me to look, that tried to get me to see, and I didn't see. Some of which have come back into my life and said, Oliver, see, I told you. Many of whom have never come back into my life, but I did eliminate people who, in my opinion, at that time wanted to take me away from the most successful thing that we did. We were beating the system. We were winning. We were making more money than 99% of the people on earth. And they wanted me to change. They wanted me to take a look at something that was different. And I'm like, why? And so I get this. I understand this in my soul, in my being. And I wish I could get those moments back. But what I did realize is that when I started to hear about Bitcoin in the most loud way, in a chorus like form, it was not the time. And I was fortunate enough to have, I guess I would say, enough market acumen to know that, okay, if I'm going to look at this as a possible thing that we play in the organization's existence, I need to see this thing collapse, because when I looked at it, when my traders forced me to look at it, it had gone from $600, $800. I can't remember. I think it was in those numbers. It was in the triple digits, 600, 800, and it moved to almost 20,000. I'm like, now you want me to look at this? And I was like, there's no way. So what I told my organization was that we're going to monitor this, but it needs to collapse. I need to see if this meteoric rise, typically, historically, in all markets, has led to it being completely dead for a very long period of time. You don't get this type of rise without it being dead for a long period of time. And I need to see this die again. And if it dies and survives, if it handles the next move down properly, then I will heighten my interest in it. And it did. And it did. And fortunately, um, those traders who managed to stay with me, we took advantage of Bitcoin from, I guess, a USD denominated price perspective very well. Our lowest price entry, which was our biggest price entry, was at 3,800 and change. And we've been in it ever since. And at that point, it was still a trade for me. It was still just another market to add to the many markets we added. And it wasn't really until Bitcoin was at 14,000 that the epiphany hit me. This is very different from anything that I've ever dealt with. This is sublime. This is very special. This is something that's different. You don't trade this thing. You play this thing. You hold this thing. That Bitcoin is the profit itself. It's what you're trying to achieve. It's not what you're using to achieve the ultimate that you feel is something else. And that epiphany happened at 14,000. And from $14,000 of Bitcoin, even though my lowest price in accumulating this thing was 3,800, my I consider in truth my real price 14,000 and change, where I never sold, because I sold from 3,800 to 14,000, but from 14,000 onward I never sold a single Satoshi ever. And I actually do not believe that I will ever sell another Satoshi from 14,000. So anyway, that's my story. And, I am hoping that as many people as I can possibly reach today, I'm hoping that they or you, if you're listening to me today, you have the same epiphany that I had when Bitcoin was 14,000. That it is life, that it is freedom, that Bitcoin is your time, that Bitcoin is scarcity itself, and that up until the point Bitcoin was created, we've been playing with the notion of scarcity, but we've never known scarcity. And today we can know true scarcity, which is value. We can know it truly now because Bitcoin exists, that we have toyed with the concept of scarcity before, that we have been in this preparatory stage before Bitcoin, but now we have the real thing. Nothing that has ever existed before Bitcoin was ever truly scarce. And a lot of people have said that, they've ascribed this label of scarcity to things like gold and things of that nature. But scarcity before Bitcoin was only experienced through scarcity was false in a way before Bitcoin. Scarcity was a man-made scarcity. It was scarcity through limitation, not scarcity through actuality. And so what I mean by that is that Bitcoin is scarcity through actuality. It's mathematical scarcity. And we've never had mathematical scarcity. Calories used to be scarcity. Calories used to be scarce, but they are no longer scarce for the vast majority of people on Earth today. So, but when they were scarce, when you ate one time a week on average, because that was the frequency with which you killed an animal to feed your clan, that was not because calories were actually mathematically scarce. It was scarce because the tools that were available to the human species at that time were limited. And so you could only kill for your food a certain frequency. When those tools improved, you could kill for your calories and take for your calories and mine for your calories at a far more rapid pace. In fact, today, we have excess calories for the vast majority of human beings on Earth, and the calories are the same. So the scarcity of calories was imposed by the limitation of technology at the time. We did not have bow and arrows. We did not have spears. We did not have flint to sharpen our stones into arrows and things of that nature. So it was a scarcity imposed on the human species by lack of technological advancement. But today, look at the obesity rate of your average American, right? We've got surplus scarcities, surplus supply when it comes to calories. Most people should be eating less, when for millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, um, the human race couldn't find enough scarcity, couldn't find enough calories to sustain themselves. So scarcity can be brought about or can exist simply by lack of capability. But Bitcoin scarcity is real because it doesn't matter what the technological advancement level is at the current moment or in the future or in the past. The scarcity is mathematically set. It doesn't it does not respond to how much technological progress is made over time. It does not respond to how much energy you can apply to getting Bitcoin. It is true, mathematically proven scarcity, and the world has never known that. And so my overall point here is that uh, when I began to realize these things about Bitcoin, I realized how special it was and how unique it was and how we need to really truly consider ourselves extraordinarily um, fortunate that we are living in the time that we're living now, because your grandkids, maybe even your kids, they will not understand what we're living through today. They will not understand that people gave government paper money to you for Bitcoin. They will not understand that people sold it for bullshit, that people traded it. They won't understand this. You understand? So we're in a very unique period in history, in my opinion, my two cents. Could I be wrong? I guess theoretically so. Do I think I'm wrong? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. These opportunities come about. Then it's not these opportunities that, like the opportunity that Bitcoin is representing for human mankind, they are not, this is not the first opportunity. These opportunities come every thousand or several thousand years. And so I just believe that we are unique in this period of time to be living in a period, during a period where we we will actually be able to say that we were early, that people didn't recognize what this was, that people were giving it away, that people were trading it for short-term gains, and that people regarded other things more important than Bitcoin. And I don't believe that that will be the status that your grandkids and maybe even some of your kids will experience. They will say, Dad, Granddad, you guys really sold this? Like, but for what? It's the most valuable thing on planet Earth, but what did you sell it for? And I believe that you will say that, well, son, grandson, we didn't know. And your grandkids or your kids will say, but I don't understand this. Like, you guys you guys didn't realize that money created by other men was less important than money that's not created by other men? And you will respond by saying, son, grandson, granddaughter, we just didn't know. And I believe there will be a day in your lifetime where people will say, your grandkids, your even in some cases, your kids that are just being born now will say, I don't get it, Dad, Granddad, really? People sold this? Sold it for what? Granddad, what do you sell the most valuable, scarcest thing on planet Earth for? And you'll respond, son, grandson, you don't understand. We just didn't know. And so, you know, this epiphany hit me, I would say, at around Bitcoin 14,000. And from that point onward, I decided to make Bitcoin my unit of account. And what I mean by that is I decided to change what we have been indoctrinated to believe and to accept as our unit of account. Our unit of account as an American, and as many other individuals who even aren't American, indirectly or directly, we have been indoctrinated to believe that the US dollar is our unit of account and that you measure everything in your life based on where you are from a US dollar perspective. So, the more US dollars you have, the better you are. This is the life that has been projected upon us and has been encouraged for us to accept, despite the fact that the purchasing power of the US dollar declines every second we hold it. And every 4 years that we hold US dollars, we are poorer. And every 4 years that we hold anything else, other fiat currency, other than the US dollar, we're actually even poorer than the ones who hold the US dollar. And so uh, I decided that when Bitcoin was about 14,000, that I would use the Bitcoin as my unit of account, that I would switch it. I would switch the narrative, and that I would work for Bitcoin, that I would try to trade, which is the only professional thing I've ever done in my life for 40 years, is trade for Bitcoin, not for dollars, to work for Bitcoin, not for dollars. To do favors for people that were going to pay me not for dollars, but for Bitcoin. And so that changed my life. It changed my paradigm. It created a paradigm shift in my whole existence. And once it did that, I set out on this course, on this journey, on this promise, if you will, to try to get as many people as I possibly can to have that epiphany, to have that change. When you make Bitcoin your unit of account, it changes everything. And that is what I hope I can at least encourage a small handful of you to do today. All right, guys. So, talk to me. Talk to me. All right. Let me see if I can get some. I'm speaking in front of my computer right now. I'm going to see if I can go to, what is this? See if I can go to my live talk here and see what questions you have for me. I do want to thank all of you who, in this unplanned way, join me in my talks. I do want to say up front that by no stretch of the imagination do I consider myself a Bitcoin expert. In fact, I don't have a long history in Bitcoin. I am not what anyone should consider a Bitcoin OG. I am learning in real time along with you. And I'm sure that people from the future will look back on some of the things that I've said as being stupid. Even me, I will do that as well. But I felt that there was some importance in learning in real time with everyone and making mistakes and correcting them and going forward with the right things, the right narratives, the wrong narratives and correcting those wrong narratives. I think there's an importance in that, in seeing how the evolution of Bitcoin takes place upon a person like me. And I will tell you that uh, in 1995, in 1994 actually, when I put up my first website and decided, despite all of the advice from my advisors at the time, to not embrace the internet as a financial expert, I decided that I would in 1994. and put up my first website that was connected to the business that I did that was directed to Wall Street oriented firms. This is all the way back in 1994, 1995, before many of you were born, not born, but before many of you even knew what the internet was. And I remember at the time when I decided this to go against much of the advice that I was receiving at the time, I remember just understanding that not even I could not even was it possible for me to understand what this open protocol was going to spring onto the world, that it was impossible to see this, and that I would embrace it, and if I was wrong, I was young enough to start again. And so I went headlong into the internet direction. And of course, that proved to be right. It's easy to see that that was right now, but it was a very hard decision at the time because I had very important people telling me, you're going to ruin everything, Oliver, in 1994, 1995. And anyone who's interested in this, you can actually go check my first website. It was entitled WSO.com, which stood for WallStreetOnline.com. You can check, I believe, what is the website you can check that with? You can check it on, what is the name of it? I don't know. It's like this website, you can check all of the old websites, all the websites that ever existed in time. I can't remember it. Someone can post it here, but you can go back and check WSO.com. That's my first website, 1994, 1995. And if you recall, most of you can, but 1994 was when the internet was made legal for commercial use and regular person use in 1994. So I was very early with that and decided to embrace the open protocol called the internet at the time and to take my Wall Street business to the internet. And I was told by many of my advisors that much of Wall Street would shun me and consider me just not anyone to deal with anymore because I embraced this thing that was for porn or for criminals and drug dealers. Same shit you hear today. Same, the narratives never change. That WSO.com, which stood WSO.com, which stood for WallStreetOnline.com, became Pristine.com. Because the name of my organization was Pristine Capital Management. And, but, you know, I've lived in a way what we are experiencing today. I've lived this adoption phase. I've seen it. I've seen what it does. And when I consider Bitcoin mentally today, it's has that 1994, 1995 feel. And it's almost watching the same movie play out where you've watched the movie before, you know where it ends, you know who the main characters are, and you know what they say. Maybe not word for word, but you have a general good feel of what every character says in the movie because you saw it before. That's how I'm reliving Bitcoin today. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, guys, let's see. Let's see what you have today. Whoa, I've got some decent questions here. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Let's see. Give me a second here. Let me read these questions here. What the heck is this doing here? Um, Okay. Z Lang is saying, Z Lang, that's what I'm reading here, says, Oliver, Plan B argues for invest, divest pulsing strategy with BTC. Invest 6 months prior to having, divest 18 months after having. What's your thoughts about Plan B strategy? Um, invest and divest. Okay. I I have a problem with this. Now, I don't have a problem with Plan B. I don't have the problems that many others seem to have with Plan B. So I'll be honest with you. I think that the framework that Plan B came up with, the stock to flow model, has some value. All models are imperfect. All models are fucked up, for lack of a better phrase. And it doesn't matter what model you descend on, it's fucked up. And so he has a fucked up model, but it has also some value. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so I've seen flaws in Plan B's stock to flow model. It ignores what I believe are important aspects to markets from my humble opinion about markets over 4 decades, but it does still give you something to work with. And that's what a model's purpose is. This idea of buying it and selling it, trying to pick a top and going back in at the bottom, I think it's misplaced. And I think it's approaching Bitcoin from an existing system as if Bitcoin is another financial additional item in the existing system, when in fact, Bitcoin is the antithesis of the system. It is outside of the system. So, what you should do is sell everything in this system for Bitcoin. If you have come to the conclusion or if you have arrived at the conclusion that Bitcoin is the solution to the problems of the existing system, which is my message. Bitcoin is freedom from a broken system. Bitcoin is the solution to slave money. And to approach Bitcoin as another financial asset to gain more of the broken system is faulty, in my opinion. So I am not in favor of this idea that you sell Bitcoin to get more of the broken, that you use Bitcoin to game the broken and to get more of the slave money. I don't believe that. I believe my approach is that we have to be in the world and not of the world. So we still have to work in slave money. We still have to work for fiat currencies. This is compelled upon us, but we have a hack today. We can use fiat money to transfer a small portion to an escape, to an exit, to freedom that never has to come back again. And as we do that, as we take a little portion of what we're forced to work for, a little portion of our slave earnings, and we can put it into freedom technology, more and more and more and more, at a certain point over a period of time, that portion, that little tiny portion that we put into freedom technology gets big enough to say, now you're free. Now you don't have to work for another man. Now you don't have to be a slave. Now you don't have to work for a money that is created by other men, and the number on the on the piece of paper is painted by other men, and you don't have the ability to paint the number. You don't have the ability to set the price. You don't have the ability to control the supply, but other men have the ability to control the supply, and you can be free from this this very advanced financial slave system. And now a money that no human beings control, but is available to every human being can take care of you. And so I still think this idea, Z Lang, comes from a fiat maxi mindset, that Bitcoin is viewed as it's just a new financial asset in the corrupt system that you gamify to make more of the corrupt system. I don't believe that. I believe, and what I will continue to pound the table on, is that you escape to Bitcoin, you escape to freedom, and you never go back. Now, this might require that you don't escape with everything, because you still have to be in the world, but not of the world. And so I don't ascribe to every single penny being put in Bitcoin, but I do ascribe to what you don't need being put in Bitcoin. And that portion that is not needed will free you one day. You will be free. Bitcoin will free you one day. And there is no need to sell out of the most scarce asset on earth for everything else that is less scarce. There is no intelligent reason why you should sell the most valuable thing on earth to go to the 20th most valuable thing, or the 50th most valuable thing, or even the 5th most valuable thing. That once you have the most valuable thing on earth, once you have the scarcest thing on earth, once you have the hardest money human beings have ever been exposed to, what do you get rid of it for? You never get rid of it. And I know people say, well, I'll never, but what am I going to use it for in the real world? And that'll catch up to you. Don't worry about that now. That'll catch up to you. Trust me. You can't tell me that the holders of the most valuable thing, the scarcest thing, the hardest thing on earth will not accrue the greatest benefits on planet Earth. How? How can you intelligently argue with me and say, well, wait a minute, Gulliver, if I hold the most valuable thing on earth, the scarcest thing on earth, the hardest thing to create on earth, how will I be at a disadvantage? Are you freaking kidding me? How? How can someone intelligently say that the holder of that will be at a disadvantage to everyone else? Trust me, people. Get as much as the thing that's going to be the most valuable thing on earth. The scarcest, it is in April, is going to be the hardest thing on earth. And it is already the scarcest thing on earth. Trust me when I tell you, the world will roll a freaking red carpet out for you and say, come this way. You own the very best thing on planet Earth. There is no way that can't be the case. There's no way someone that owns the 20th most valuable thing on earth is going to get more benefits than you. Just, we're early. That's all. We're early. Just grab this thing, guys. Z Lang, grab it. Ignore these narratives, man. This is silly to me. It's thinking from the system still. And I'm surprised at him. And you can tell him I said so. All right. Let's see. What's next? Let's see. All right, Calvin, who is almost in every single one of my live talks, and I truly appreciate you, Calvin. I truly appreciate you. Calvin is saying, this sounds horrible, Oliver, but I wish my BTC epiphany was as locked in as yours. Well, that's my purpose, to try to get you to see it as locked in as mine. And one of my purposes is to come to you from the traditional financial space that is predicated on seeing this differently. Um, I just think that my message from having beat the system, winning in this system, understanding the system, being entrenched in the system, has greater weight than someone who's just on Twitter typing shit that has none of that experience. And that is the only reason why I decided to try to make my voice heard, because, guys, I became what many people were trying to become: successful trader, Wall Street guy, millions of dollars, whatever the case is. And I finally got it. I finally saw it. And that, I believe, has more weight than someone who's living in their grandmother's basement that says, I got it. Not that that's bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that coming from that space with success does have a certain weight when a person in that position has found the switch, has had the epiphany. But anyway, Calvin continues and says, maybe it's fear of remaining poor. I'm in a set position financially, still working 9 to 5. Good. Wanting to get back into IFT. Conviction is something, just takes time, but I'm getting there. Well, listen, don't poo-poo the 9 to 5. I respect the 9 to 5. I respect going out there and working for the man, working for the system, and gaining fiat. I think that that should not be poo-pooed. I think that should not be put down. I'm not a part of that crew that does that. I think you should be proud. But what I think you should do as a hack now is to earn the slave money through your 9 to 5, and to take a portion of it and move it to freedom. Move it to your future freedom. You can gamify the 9 to 5 thing without anybody knowing. You understand? You can, all right, I make this 9 to 5, 20% goes here. I can live without 20% of this. I can live without 15% of this. I can live without 10% of this. I can live without 30% of this. Whatever the number is, move it there, move it there, move it there, and try to do it weekly. Pay yourself first in Bitcoin. What you're really doing is not mining dollars. You're mining Bitcoin, and you're mining your future freedom quietly, secretly, stealthily. And you can turn this thing into a freedom mechanism for yourself. I honor the 9 to 5 people. I'm not one of these people that considers the poor lost. I consider the people who live paycheck to paycheck as being in one of the best situations to take advantage of the future. Because no matter how poor you are, no matter how poor you think you are, there's always excess. There's $1, there's $5, there's $10 you can do without. There's that t-shirt you don't have to buy. There's that beer or that night with your friends that you can let go of once a month and put that shit into Bitcoin. And you can guarantee that every single dollar on every single date that you put in, that you bank, that you sacrifice for Bitcoin will make you richer 4 years from now. That if you have made this sacrifice to put 10 or $100 into Bitcoin today, you can be mathematically sure that 4 years from now, this $10, this $100 will make me richer 4 years from now. And if I do it next week, I will make myself richer 1 week later. And if I do it the next week, I will make myself richer next. So 4 years from now, I can have week after week after week after week of increased value, of a better life, of more freedom. Bitcoin wants, as the best savings technology that the world has ever seen, Bitcoin wants to bring back to us the ability to just chill and save and not demand that things happen right away. It wants to build character. It wants to build loyalty. Loyalty is lost in today's world. Can you give Bitcoin 4 years of loyalty, Calvin, from today's purchase? And next week, again, can you give Bitcoin 4 years of loyalty from that day? And every week, you can experience 4 years from today a cascading life of increase, of plenty, of abundance for the rest of your life. But you've got to give it 4 years. And in some cases, less, but you've got to go into it with a minimum of 4 years. You'll be fine, Calvin. Stay close to me. Stay close. Chi Sing C says, question. I told my colleague that BTC is the top opportunity for 2024 and beyond. I agree with you. Despite his hesitant response, as fellow teachers at CUNY schools, New York, I'm from New York as well. Chi Sing Chi. Chi Sing Si goes on to say, I believe it's worth exploring. How can I encourage him to take a closer look? I will tell you some of the things that really had a profound effect on me. I think one of the first things that really struck me truly hard was Viapati. I think that's his name, Viapati. His work entitled, shoot, why am I going blank here? Viapati. Some of you can remind me here. The bullish case for Bitcoin. There it is. I got it. Okay, Viapati. Shout out to Viapati. The bullish case for Bitcoin. That led me, Viapati's piece on the bullish case of Bitcoin. You can go buy that. I encourage that you buy that. I encourage that you have that in your Bitcoin library. Go to Amazon right now. Just buy that. Reach out to him. Say thank you. Viapati. Okay. That had a profound effect on me, which led me to the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean. And then those two things led me to what I believe helped ignite the epiphany for me that Bitcoin was time. I'd studied time. Believe it or not, guys, this is as crazy as this sounds. I studied time in my mother's library for a long period of time. I just got fascinated. I picked up this book that focused on time in my mother's library. What are you doing in your mother's library? My mother was a librarian. She demanded that I go to the library. She's Oliver. 20 minutes. Your school lets out at 3. You better be here at 3:20. And I had to fight my way to my mother's library every single day of my life during a certain period of my time. I grew up in Brooklyn, so you just fought to get wherever you went. And so I fought my way to my mother's library every day, and I think that's why I'm still a fighter today. But anyway, I digress. But I picked up this book that focused on time and how time was really it approached time from this ethereal perspective, that time was a man-made concept and that time never existed, and that you need two events. You need that time is the measurement between two events, and if you remove the two events, or even if you remove one event, that there can't exist time, and yada yada yada. Make a long story short, this fascinated me when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And what resi- what reignited that interest in the concept of time was Gigi's work on Bitcoin is time. And that blew my mind away. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, so I started delving deeper and deeper into the work of Gigi. And it's a shame that he doesn't post on Twitter anymore. I think he's gone entirely to Nostr, but you can go on Amazon and get his work, Gigi, Dergige. And it just freaking blew my mind. And that it was the culmination of those works, Via Party, The Bullish Case for Bitcoin, um, the Bitcoin Standard, and Gigi's Bitcoin is Time work that just kind of came together and just freaking blew me away. It just blew me away. It was as if everything that I had studied, everything that I've done, everything that I'd focused on, the purpose of which was for to understand Bitcoin. And so, um, what I will say to you, say is that your attempt, your desire to save other people is more important than what other people will ultimately accept. You should not judge your heart by the result of other people. Like, you should judge it based on your heart to share. And what I've found is that the deeper you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and understand how it truly is human freedom, the more and more you realize that, the more and more you want to share, and the more and more you want to help free. And that is a good thing. Whether other people see it or not, or accept it or not, is irrelevant. That your value as a human being should be judged based on your desire to share it, with no intent to benefit from that other than, I just want to share freedom. Like, what kind of human being are you if you see the exit out of a burning building and you tell no one? What kind of human being are you? Like, what human being does that? I've got the escape, but I'm going to keep it to myself. I've never asked a single person for a single penny here. I try to answer every question. I try to respond to every DM. I come on here, take time away from my family to talk to you like I'm doing tonight. Why? Have I asked you for anything? That's just humanhood. Do you understand? That's humanhood. I believe I have an exit. I believe I've seen freedom. And what kind of human being would I be if I didn't share that? So that's how you judge yourself. Your friend is likely not to see what you see, Sing say. But that's okay. The fact that you shared it is is the that's the gem right there. Be proud of yourself. Crypto for all says agreed. I don't know what you're agreeing to, but let's see. Uh, Crypto for all. Agreed, Oliver. 10 years is practically 3 cycles in Bitcoin. Yes. Every cycle is 4 years, so 2 years is 8 years. So yeah, 3 years is definitely more than 10 years. DCA or dollar cost averaging for 10 years is something that could really make a huge difference. Absolutely. I believe that if you're willing to give Bitcoin 2 to 3 cycles, that is 8 to 12 years, your children's children will remember your name. We remember names today that you don't think much about, but names that were originated by people that lived 3 millennia before us, 300 years before us, even 100 years before us. And this will not stop, but the people who will be remembered 100 plus years from now will be us. Your family will, their living room walls will bear your photos. In the annals of your family's history, your name will be repeated incessantly. You will be the savior of your bloodline because of what you do today. And no other human being born after the 2020s will ever be able to accomplish that. This is what I mean by we are special. We are fortunate to live in this time because we have the ability to do this. We have the ability to change bullshit government money for the scarcest thing on planet Earth. And in the 2030s, no one born in 2030 and beyond will ever have that ability. They will read history books about us. So take full advantage now. Your children's children will remember your name. That is my view, and I'm sticking to it. William Jensen says, Oliver, gotta respect your honesty. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Calvin Hermes, OV, the OG. I'm not an OG in Bitcoin. I am an OG in the financial space, but I still consider myself a baby in the Bitcoin space. I'm learning. Um, I feel like I go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole every single week of my life. I've spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours. I can't stop, guys. Freedom is a deep rabbit hole, and it has an historical precedent in our life, and it's an it's it has been it has truly been what the human species has unconsciously in most cases, and in some cases consciously, been been striving for. The age-old axiom, know thyself, is really a search for the freedom of self, the freedom of being. And Bitcoin is the culmination of all of that into one item that represents human freedom. Bitcoin is time, as Durgigi says, and I've already pointed you to his work. Um, Bitcoin is time, and time is the stuff that life is made up of. And humans, the only thing of value that a human being has is time. And it is the time is the scarcest thing on earth. But we are living at a time during the evolutionary cycle or journey of the human species where our time produces excess. Most people, not everyone, but you produce with your time more than you need today. And so what you choose to do with the excess determines your future. You can put that excess time with the fruits of your labor into something that becomes less, the dollar, or you can put it in something that becomes more, Bitcoin. You can put it in something that is controlled by another man, the dollar. My future is in the control of another man, the dollar. Or you can put it in something that is in control of no man, Bitcoin, but is accessible to every man in a fair way, Bitcoin. And um, I'm trying to pound the table to get people to understand that we're fortunate in that we have, for the first time, a choice to put the fruits of our labor into something that is not man-made or man-controlled, and that is mathematically designed to increase us every 4 years of our life forever. Now, some people take issue with me and say, Oliver, how can you say Bitcoin is not man-made? It's not man-made because Bitcoin is the manifestation of scarcity in the digital world, and scarcity is not something that can be made by man. It can be discovered by man, which Satoshi Nakamoto did, but it can't be made by man. Scarcity can't be made. Doesn't matter if no one saw it before Satoshi Nakamoto, but we see it now. He didn't make it, he saw it. He discovered it. He put something together that gave us the ability to take advantage of something that existed from the beginning of time, scarcity in the digital realm. Durgigi, guys, read it. Blew my mind. Um, Fresh Funk is saying, Oliver, what do people mean when they say God cycle? I think, well, I'll tell you what my opinion of what that means is that we are in the second phase of Bitcoin's evolution, and that it is entirely open and no one knows. We're in price discovery. We're in the discovery mode. We're in the observance mode, right? That the past doesn't mean anything right now. So we've had 15 years of cycles, and using the history of those cycles has proven us well. It's worked because Bitcoin is maths at the end of the day. And so if you basically went by Bitcoin's prior cycles where, okay, it has an 80% drawdown every single cycle. So it has 1 year of an 80% drop and 3 years up. 1 year of an 80% drop on average, more or less, right? Some years a little bit more, some years a little bit less. But if you could pick the average, Bitcoin has a 1 year 80% drop, 3 years up. After 3 years up, 1 year 80% drop, 3 years up. 1 year 80% drop, 3 years up. That cycle has proven to be true and very rewarding for people who have recognized that cycle. When we say we're now in the God cycle, it's like that cycle's gone now. That was the first phase. And what I've always traditionally taught my traders is that the second phase is the big one. So if you thought the first phase, 15 years, was something special, and it was, because Bitcoin over 15 years during its first phase became the best performing asset by any metric you can ever possibly conceive, by a long shot, so far that it's in another freaking galaxy, right? If you thought that phase was special, wait to the second phase. We're in the God's phase. We're in the God cycle. I don't ascribe to this idea that Bitcoin is going to experience diminishing returns in the future. How can you experience diminishing returns when half of 1% of the world has it? Oh, so half of 1% adoption is we're finished now, it's diminishing from there? That's not even remotely intelligent to approach it like that. We haven't even begun. That half of 1% is not even the frickin' warm up. The best years are ahead of us. The God cycle. If you consider the past 15 years as having great cycles, well, the God cycles are upon us now, fresh funk. Stack harder. All right. Calvin says, yeah, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. Yes. During this time when people are willing to give up their Bitcoin for government bullshit money, man-made money out of thin air, that won't last for long. That won't last your entire lifetime. No one in your later life is going to be accepting government printed, man-made control money for the rarest thing on earth. No one's going to be accepting that in the future. And so as long as someone's willing to take that trade, people take it. Someone wants to give you their Bitcoin for government bullshit, take it. Doesn't even matter the price now. Just think 2030s. That trade is going to be so wrong. Just think 2030s. Don't think next month. You can't think that way. Think 2030s. How stupid they're going to see themselves as. I gave up Bitcoin for bullshit paper that other men painted numbers on. Are you freaking kidding me? I gave up the rarest thing on earth, the most valuable thing on earth, the thing that no human being can control, the thing that delivers freedom to the world. I gave it up for something that other people hired an artist for to write a number on. Oh my God. Make that trade every single day of the week, twice on Sunday. But you've got to make it with an amount that you don't need. So I am what many would consider to be a Bitcoin maximalist. I believe that you should not be wasting your time with any other bullshit. Oh, Oliver, the altcoins bullshit. And I never taught my kids, and I have a lot of kids, guys. I never taught my kids that you should settle for the alternative. I never taught them that. You settle for number one. Who amongst you as parents would teach your kids, no, you want the alternative? You would never teach your kids that. Fuck the alternative. Do you understand? You deserve what is not the alternative. This idea of an alternative something is a distraction. It is to get you, to design to get you to look away from the number one thing. Do you realize that in the United States, the greatest number of laws in the United States every single year is passed on a weekend? Did you realize that? Americans, do you understand this, right? That the majority of the laws that get passed that you are forced to abide by, they get passed on a weekend. And guess, out of all the weekends, there's 52 weekends, right? Out of the 52 weekends, those laws are passed during the biggest sporting events of the 52 weeks. You don't believe me? Go back to the last biggest sporting event we've had in the world, the Super Bowl. Now search what laws were passed during the Super Bowl while you were watching grown men tackle each other and pass a pig-skinned obelisk shaped little freaking ball amongst themselves. Go search. Go do it now. I challenge you. Find out what laws were passed while you were watching that bullshit. My point, I don't even know what my point, I lost my point actually, but you know what I'm saying. Don't get distracted. This altcoin shit, but Bitcoins are just another financial product shit. That's what the ETFs bring to you. It's another one of Wall Street's products now. No, don't fall for that. Please don't fall for that. You know, the masses have, throughout history, have been distracted the um, by the games, by the gladiator fights, the modern day sporting events, the shiny other products that claim to improve on the thing that saves you. Don't look there, look somewhere else. This delivers more for you. Don't fall for that. On my watch, you won't fall for that. As long as you listen to me, I won't let you fall for that. I may not do it for long, but as long as I'm talking, you will not fall for that. You will not. Sonny, what's up, buddy? Sonny, I love Sonny. Guys, follow this dude, man. I try to get all of my on-chain data from Sonny. He posted under this talk here that I'm having now, Sonny.descrapper. I have bookmarked his webpage, and this dude stays up virtually 24 hours a day tracking every single wallet of import or importance, the inflows, the outflows, and he's managed to identify the vast majority of all the wallets on the Bitcoin network, because Bitcoin is an open protocol. So if you sit there and you monitor it close enough, you can over time realize, okay, that's the Korean government, that's the US government, that's Michael Saylor, that's MicroStrategy's wallet, that's Coinbase wallets, that's this wallet, whatever. And you can start making these associations. And what Sani has done is manage to the majority of wallets. He knows who they belong to. That's incredibly valuable. You understand? So I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you being here, Sonny. Follow this dude, Sonny.Descrappa. And bookmark that website so you can see which wallets are which. I love the work you're doing, God's work, Sonny. What else are we doing here? Let's see. VJ Biaharti. That's right, 21.btc. VJ Biaharti. I like it. Thank you for posting the bullish case for Bitcoin. That is one of the pieces of work that really made me see Bitcoin differently as just another trade. Because, guys, when I bought Bitcoin at 3,800, I bought thousands of Bitcoin at the lowest price I accumulated was 3,800, and I was selling out all the way into 14,000. I double, triple my money, right? And then I realized, oh my God, around 14,000. I never forget it. I can remember it like it was today. And I was actually sharing this experience with someone at lunch today, right? And I was explaining to them with the people, I had people with me who were doing this with me at the time when Bitcoin was at 14,000. And I had this epiphany. And I'm like, oh, wait. And I'm telling everybody, stop selling. We got to get it all back. Right? So I had 8 different outlets that I was operating Bitcoin from, OTC desk and things of that nature. 8 different outlets. I literally in one day flipped everything to buy. And I told every single one of my traders who was responsible for operating these outlets, we only buy. Just keep hitting the buy button. I had people with me that had, okay, you have this outlet open, you have this outlet open, you have that outlet open. Just keep buying. I gotta get what I sold back. Just keep buying. Every dip, just keep buying. And we would buy every $500 down. And we did that from 14,000 all the way to 64,000, all the way back to 28,000, all the way back to 69,000, all the way to 15,800, 15,500. Did it for years, trying to get what I sold back. Crazy. I'm going to write a book about that one day. And I'm going to come with receipts. I'm going to show the transactions. You guys who followed me for any period of time, you understand. I come with receipts, man. I show you the transactions, man. It's crazy. We were wilds, man. But yeah. The bullish case for Bitcoin is posted under this talk. Please read that. Changed my life. Silas is saying, Bitcoin is truly money and it cannot be devised by any government. Truly can buy us time to do things we want to do instead of living paycheck to paycheck, being a slave. That's true. I will say this though. I just want to make I don't know how important this correction is to your statement, Salas, but I do want to say this. Bitcoin is a burgeoning money. And this is a beautiful thing. It is not a full-fledged money yet. And a full-fledged money has gone through all 4 stages of evolution, which is collectible, store of value, medium of exchange, and ultimately unit of account. And that is a full-fledged money. Most monies don't reach the full 4-stage process. And via Party's bullish case for Bitcoin does explain this very well. So if you want to understand what I'm saying here in a more deep way, read his work. All right. And Please support him. Go to Amazon and buy it. Don't get it off. Don't get it free off the internet. It's a couple dollars, guys. It'll change your life. But um, what you this is important to understand because it helps you see through the bullshit of everything else when you understand the 4 stages that a sound money must go through before it is considered to be a full-fledged sound money. Collectible, store of value, medium of exchange, where people start trading it amongst themselves, and then unit of account, where everything is priced in the unit. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use Bitcoin in all 4 stages right now. I use Bitcoin as a unit of account today. I price everything in Bitcoin. So if someone says, Oliver, you want this, it costs this, I calculate in Bitcoin and be like, that bullshit's not worth a quarter of a Bitcoin. Get out of here. I price everything in Bitcoin. I judge it by the value of Bitcoin. Somebody gives me a price, I'm like, that's not worth 1/10 of a Bitcoin. Get out of here. Get out of here. You know, I'm from New York, so get out of here. It's not happening. Bro, that's not happening. 1/10 of a Bitcoin is not happening. That's using Bitcoin as a unit of account. Has it truly arrived as a unit of account for the world? No, but I use it. So my point is that you can still use Bitcoin in all 4 of its phases, but it doesn't mean that the vast majority of the world has arrived at it as that. And Bitcoin is not a full-fledged global money until the vast majority of the world uses Bitcoin as a unit of account, which is its last and final stage. But in truth, you don't want it to be that. And a lot of people make a mistake with this, right, guys? So they're like, but Bitcoin doesn't do this. And I say, good. Be happy it doesn't yet. I can't borrow easily with my Bitcoin. Good. We're early. I can't lend it out for interest. Good. We're early. But nobody accepts it for payment yet. Good. We're early. Because the biggest number go up, period, of a thing is before those things happen. When all of that is available, the number go up, the wealth, the generational wealth creation aspects of its evolutionary process, of its adoption curve is practically over. You don't wait for all the I's to be dotted and all the T's to be crossed of a thing to then get involved in it. It's over. You don't. The best opportunity for a prime piece of real estate is before the real estate is built, right? Pre-construction. That's the biggest gain. If you want to wait for everything to be created and everyone to see how amazing it is and everyone to be living there, the gain, the upside potential is practically gone. We are early. We don't want all of that yet. Be glad there's still shit to be done. That's where your generational wealth is going to come from. Your pre-freaking construction Bitcoin. We're early at 68,000. You're early. And don't judge it based on 68,000 because that's the trick. Judge it by Satoshis. You know how you do Satoshis? You put 3 zeros in front of the number, right? So it's 68,000. Put 0.3 zeros, then 68. And that's how much a Satoshi is worth in US dollar terms. A single Satoshi is 0.00068. Oh my God, we're early. Don't get tricked by them moving the decimal on you to make you think you're late. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that, people. 0.00068. That's how early you fucking are. All right. Love it. Loving it. Loving it. Loving it. What else? What do we have here? I appreciate that, Calvin. Calvin says, I believe your messages, OV, have helped me appreciate the discoveries all of us will witness. Appreciate that. Um, James Trasher says, Oliver, talk about your Monday theory. This could potentially be changing now. So, a couple of years ago, everything, before I trade anything or play anything, and I've done this for 4 decades, right? I do an historical analysis of the thing that I'm going to put my family's money into, right? And it's still astonishing to me how many people don't do this, but I have to know its historical tendencies, its precedent, what it does during certain cycles, how it performs in this environment versus that environment before I ever trade it or place my family's what I've accumulated for my family at risk in it, right? So I did that with Bitcoin before I made my first entry into Bitcoin. I studied all of its cycles, its past cycles. There weren't many data points because Bitcoin is still early in its adoption phase, right? So we've only had 3 halvings. This April is going to be the 4th halving, and it's 15 years. And despite the fact that is actually long in the traditional financial space. It's not long as it relates to asset classes throughout history. Real estate's a grandpa versus Bitcoin. Equity markets are grandpa versus Bitcoin. Gold is a freaking senior citizen compared to Bitcoin. And, so it's still a baby. And it's a baby not only in terms of time, it's a baby in terms of valuation as well. Gold's a $14 trillion asset, but who really knows? Nobody knows how many ounces of gold exist on planet Earth. That's bullshit. But they say the bullshit number they give us is 14 trillion. And so Bitcoin's 1 trillion. But we can verify Bitcoin. We can't verify gold. So anyway, the point is that I've always done these historical studies on an asset before I began to trade it or play it in any form. And I did that with Bitcoin. And what I found is that I did an historical study over its life per day. So which days are more bullish of the week? Which days of the week statistically over 15 years? At the time I did this study, it was it was 4 years ago. So, it was over a decade. Which days were the most bullish? Which days were the most bearish? Were there specific hours that had a consistent statistical tendency up or down out of a 24-hour period? To make a long story short, I found something that was interesting. I found that Sunday nights, from a New York Times perspective, presented the best buy opportunities into Monday morning up until 12. So if I had to create a 24-hour period that was more advantageous to buy into Bitcoin, it would be 12 noon New York time, by the way, Eastern time, right? So 12 noon New York time on Sunday to 12 noon New York time Monday. So 12 to 12, that would be your most prime 24-hour period of every week. This served me well for years. So in that 24-hour period, I buy Bitcoin every single day of my life, but that day would definitely be a heavier day than all the others, right? And it served me well. Um, the jury is still out, but it seems as though this is changing a little bit. And it's changing because of the ETFs and their T+1 settlement structure. Without going too deeply into this now, because I do want to have a specific talk about the ETF's T+1 settlement feature and how I believe that is affecting things and how we can take advantage of that. I want to give it its own individual space, which I'm not going to do here tonight. But that is changing in a way, but but I still think not so dramatically. So you're sort of getting right now, based on my analysis, is that you're sort of getting this Friday effect down, right? Um, and this late Sunday into Monday move up. And the reason is because of the spot Bitcoin T+1 settlement that they're taking advantage of. So in a very short way, money comes in on Friday, doesn't have to, that creates the money coming into the ETFs on Friday, create ETF shares. That gets credited to the investor's account at that price. But so they're obligated to give you Bitcoin at the equivalent price of the share create on Friday. So you buy the spot Bitcoin ETF on Friday, boom, that immediately gets credited to your account. But because of T1 settlement, they don't have to bring into existence the BTC, the Bitcoin that corresponds to that cash create for one day. So that's what's called T+1 settlement, right? So on Friday, T+1 is actually T+3, right? Because it's business days. So the cash that comes in Friday doesn't have to show the Bitcoin until Monday. And so there's this tendency to utilize certain tools throughout the weekend to, especially in overly leveraged markets where people are, the degens are overly leveraged on the long side, they crush those. They utilize the futures market to crush the overly leveraged longs, right? Over the weekend, cause a dip so that they can get the Bitcoin cheaper than the cash create price created on Friday. And so you wind up Monday, Tuesday at the same level or higher than the cash create price that was created on Friday. So cash is first, Bitcoin is one day later. And over the weekend, one day later is 3 days, Friday to Monday. So anyway, this is my business, guys. I've been in that world for 4 decades, and I understand how it works. So you're seeing late Sunday a move off of the weekend low, which doesn't surprise me, right? The weekend low was what? Let me get the low here. The weekend low was 64 and we're at 68. So we're almost $4,000 up from the low. And it's likely that Monday into Tuesday, you see it higher. And this is likely to continue for a while, but let's watch it. Let's see. This is my theory right now because of T+1 settlement with the, but I will tell you this. They're grabbing your Bitcoin and they're never going to let it go again. Don't give up your Bitcoin in these little drops here. Don't do it. These drops are gifts. Buy the dips. Don't give up your Bitcoin to these guys, man. They're not going to let it go. There's 9 other ETFs coming online in Hong Kong in the next couple of weeks. 9 more. You think it's going to stop there? It's like they're not going to let go of a Bitcoin where now the world is starting to increasingly clamor for it. Because if just because Joe from Kentucky wants to sell his ETF shares because he bought when Bitcoin was 42 and now it's 68, they're supposed to sell Bitcoin now because you sold your ETF shares. They're supposed to make the Bitcoin disappear from the ETF. They're going to make it disappear into another entity. They're not going to let that Bitcoin go out into the world to be gobbled up by Hong Kong's ETFs. They're not going to do it, man. It's not going to happen. They're going to keep it in the ecosystem. And any Bitcoin you sell, they're going to just keep it. They'll get it. It has to, by law, disappear from the ETF, but it'll disappear into another entity that they control. And so the Bitcoin that these ETFs, especially the BlackRocks of the world, are accumulating, that will never see the light of day again. And you are giving up your Bitcoin to an ecosystem that will never let it go again. Every time you sell and I buy, that Bitcoin will never see the light of day again. So I'm a little BlackRock. Imagine these guys. Don't do it. Don't give it up. And self-custody it, for Christ's sakes. There's no way, people, that you can tell me that it's better not to own the most valuable thing on earth and have full ownership than have someone own it for you and they give you a piece of paper that represents it. Who on this earth who has even a small iota of intelligence thinks that the paper representation of someone else owning their thing is going to be more important than the person that actually owns it themselves? Like, come on, guys, you're smarter than that, right? Self-custody your shit. Possession is 9/10 of the law. If the ETFs possess it, they've got 9/10 of the law in their favor. You have bullshit. I'm not saying they don't have value. I'm not saying they can't be used for certain things. I'm just saying don't let them trick you out of, I don't need to own Bitcoin. I don't need to self-custody my own Bitcoin. You're a dummy. That trick has been played on the masses for thousands of years. Don't fall for that. Harshalaka says, what's the name of the book where you studied time in your mother's library? It was actually not a single book, but it was a rabbit hole. I would say that the study of time and how time doesn't exist. Guys, time is a man-made construct. Anyone who even scratches the surface of this topic will understand that time doesn't exist, right? Einstein was a big proponent of this. That time doesn't exist and can be played with, and there's warped time. There's, time is the measurement between two events. That's all it is. So who creates events? Man creates events. So that anything that man creates is not real, right? So the measurement between two events creates time. If you take those two things away, time doesn't exist. You just have the eternal now, right? You have eternity. So time is literally parentheses in eternity. So you know what parentheses are, right? When you put parentheses around a sentence, you put the left parentheses and the right parentheses. But what's between the parentheses space and what's outside the parentheses space? If you remove the two parentheses, what do you have? Space. So there's only space, there's only time, there's only eternity. And you create time by creating parentheses, a left one and a right one, a first event and a second event. So the measurement between those two parentheses is what creates time. Now, humans can manipulate the events. So human beings can manipulate what is construed as time. And so this is the rabbit hole I went down when I was a kid. And the idea that Bitcoin is time is that between time is created by Bitcoin by between two blocks. So you have a block 10 minutes, 10 minutes later, you have another block that creates time. So Bitcoin has created its own time. It's crazy. It's freaking mind blowing. It's wild, man. And what's really crazy is that Bitcoin's time is more real than man-made's time, because time or history, so time that was created in the past is called history. History has been dictated by the winners of wars, right? So they create the time or the history according to the narrative they want because they won the war. But Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin's time is more real because it is predicated on true transaction that can never be changed or altered, no matter who wins a war, no matter who loses a war. It is true time. Now, if time is created by the two activities, these activities are created by human beings. So time or history, which is past time, right? Time is, here's where it gets crazy, right? So time is nothing more than the relationship between human beings, because in order to create two events, you have to have human beings interact with each other to create those events, right? So the human beings, so time is nothing more than a historical timeline of man interacting with man. And so, because that was alterable in the past, it's no longer alterable by Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is nothing more than tracking interactions or transactions between human beings every 10 minutes. It's the ultimate time, it's the real time, it's the time of value. What time? Like, who cares about the time that I blinked my eye 2 times? Who cares about the time between my two eye blinks? But I do care about the time that I transacted with another human being. And the next time there was a transaction between human beings, that time is important, not the time that I blink my eyes, right? So the transactions between human beings create time. Those past transactions create history. And if Bitcoin's transactions on its time chain are immutable, that becomes immutable history. We've never had immutable history in the whole evolutionary process of human beings. This is freaking mind blowing. It's so mind blowing that I don't like to talk about it too much because a lot of people can't go there mentally. A lot of people are still, oh, Oliver, is it still number go up? Can I make some money? Bitcoin is so far beyond that. Oh my God. But there's nothing wrong with approaching Bitcoin from the number go up perspective, because that's the start. That's how you get in. That's how I got in. That's how it sucked me in. The biggest marketing department for Bitcoin, because it doesn't have one, is the number go up portion of it. So if you were to look at Google search trends, the search trend for Bitcoin is starting to move to the upside after many years of not. All right. And what's doing that? Does Bitcoin buy Google ad space? No. its number go up. So I'm okay with people being attracted to Bitcoin for money only. That's the way I was attracted to it. It's the way everyone first gets attracted to it. And a small percentage of those people fall deeper in the rabbit hole and realize this has nothing fucking to do with money. Not the money that we've been sold on, the fake money we've been sold on. And it brings you to the concept of time, because all real money is your stored time. You give your time, and in exchange for your time, you receive something. That something is called money. So your money is time. So this idea that money is the root of all evil is wrong, because money is your time, and time is the stuff life is made up of. So money is your life. That is why you're so freaking emotional about it. And unconsciously, you don't understand why you're so emotional about your money, is because your money represents the time or your life that you spent on someone or something. You give your time to another man's dream. That's a 9 to 5. The owner of the 9 to 5 business has a dream, and you give your time to that dream. And the time you woke up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you had breakfast, you got on a train, you got on a bus, you get in your car, you paid for tolls, parking, you went into the building, you did this man's work for his dream. That's all your time. And at the end of 40 hours, you get a paycheck. That paycheck represents the time you gave away to something that wasn't even yours. Of course, you're emotional about that. But when the money you get for your life is bullshit, you start to live a bullshit life. You start to disrespect the money, which is disrespecting the time you gave for the money, which is then ultimately disrespecting the life, your own life. If you witness a man disrespecting money, you're witnessing a man that has no value for his own life. And he doesn't even know it. Bitcoin has come to save us from this. Because Bitcoin's message is, put your time here. I'll take care of it. And I will make sure that every 4 years, your time is not only valued and secured by the safest, most secure network human beings have ever been exposed to, I'll increase it and I will multiply it. Your life will be increased. Your life will be multiplied. Your time is your life, right? I'm going to multiply your life. I'm going to multiply your time. I'm going to multiply what you give me. Maybe not every single day, but every 4 years, you can bet your bottom dollar it'll be worth more. Versus the system we have now, give me your time, and 4 years later, I guarantee you, your time is less. I will steal from your time. When your time is stolen, you're a slave. What is a slave? When someone else has 100% of your time. Well, what's a half a slave? When someone has half, 50% of your time. And what's someone who gets money in exchange for their time, and the money they get declines every single second they hold it? That's a slave too. Well, what's giving your time and every 4 years is worth more? That's not a slave. Bitcoin is freedom. That is why I'm constantly saying Bitcoin is freedom. Reverses the maleffects of time. Crazy, guys. It's freaking crazy. It's crazy. I get people all the time, Oliver, you're too religious about this thing, man. It's not that. You're supposed to sell it and buy shit with it. And it's like, dude, you'll get there maybe one day. It's way more than that. I've done the put your money here, buy something for $1, sell it for $2. I've done that my whole life. But Bitcoin's more than that. Bitcoin's more than buying something for $1 and selling it for $2, people. You know, it's more than that. It's more sublime. It's more spiritual than that. I'm sorry to use that word, but it is. You know, Bitcoin is your word. Throughout our entire lives, we've heard this saying that my word is my bond. I keep my word. You have been taught to honor someone who keeps their word. Well, for the first time in the human experience, your value, your worth, your wealth is your word. Bitcoin is 12 to 24 words, for Christ's sakes. Those words can never be taken from you, can never be stolen from you. You can be jailed, you can be imprisoned, you can be tortured, but your words, the word hope will never leave you. So if Bitcoin represents the word hope, the letters HOPE, and you have the word hope, HOPE, how can I take that word from you? I can jail you. Do you still have the word HOPE? Yes. I can torture you. Do you still have HOPE with you? Yes. Can I ever take hope from you, that the word HOPE from you? No. Your word is your bond. Your word is your wealth. Your word is your value. Your word is your honor. Your word is your Bitcoin. For the first time in the human evolution, the human species evolutionary process, your word truly is your bond. Your word is your Bitcoin. And find some freaking loyalty to that. Be true to your word. Stop wavering at every little breeze that comes through, every little USD dollar price fluctuation. Have some freaking loyalty. Keep your word for once in your life. And every 4 years for the rest of your life, and the rest of your lives, and the lives of your children, and the lives of their children, it will take care of you. All right, guys, we're at 68,340. Not that shit matters. Stack harder. Every single week, you're winning if you have a little bit more Bitcoin than you had last week. Stack, self-custody, chill. And I'll be talking at you guys. All right. Ciao for now. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!